Eric, and this is the cutting room floor once again. Just some stuff from the sermon last week that I didn't get a chance to talk about. And there was one point that I really wanted to emphasize, but as we all preachers have a tendency to do, we put too much stuff in our sermon. And even on Easter Sunday, I really wanted to explore this, but just didn't have time. And that was the second point of my message, which was the relevancy of Jesus, that Jesus is relevant. Now, a lot's been made up about the past 10 years or so, or even more than that, 10 or 20 years, about the church trying to become relevant to culture, with music and facilities and so forth. And that's one subject, and I'm not really talking about that kind of thing. I'm just talking about life. And because there's a lot been made of the fact that Jesus is no longer relevant. You get tired of hearing politicians, even entertainers now, talking about the fact that the Bible is an archaic book, and hey, in our day, in our time, it's no longer relevant. Well, we as Christians really need to stand up and challenge that, because that's what our people in our churches are hearing. They're hearing it in school, they're hearing it on television, they're hearing it in movies, and we need to counter that. There has never been anyone in the history of the world that has changed the world and continues to change the world more than Jesus. And we as Christians need to be encouraged by that, because it's all been for good. Yes, we have some black eyes in the history of the church, the Crusades and other missionary endeavors that have gone awry in the name of Christ. But I'm talking about all the things that Jesus said he wanted to change, and he brought new values, brought new morals and new principles to the world that continue to affect us and will continue to affect us until he comes back again. I think if we were to try to count up all of the changes that have happened since Jesus Christ came, it would be immeasurable. We couldn't do it. A lot of people have written books about it and written articles. I think of some contemporaries like Dinesh D'Souza, John Ortberg. There's been other apologists who have written on how the world has been affected and changed. All of those are good materials, and I would encourage you to research that out if you have some curiosity. But really, in this cutting room floor, I just want you to think about how Jesus Christ has changed not only your world, but the world around us, and will continue to do so through his church. No matter how many people say the church is dead and the church is dying, and no matter how many people say the Bible is no longer relevant, it will continue to happen. I guarantee you, and that's been said before. But if you were just look through history and to see how things like families, women's rights, human rights, children's rights have changed because of the church and because of the teachings of Jesus, it would be a fascinating study if you've never done that before. Even in areas such as government, work ethic, there are people who have studied that and can show you how the teachings of Jesus has changed the way the world thinks about those kinds of things. One particularly area that I think has changed the world more than just about anything else that's Jesus' teaching on things like compassion and mercy. A lot of people misunderstand what the Bible teaches, for instance, about slavery. But it was the early Christians who began to teach against slavery. And the teachings in the Bible are much different than what some people would like to portray them as. The biblical teaching on slavery, especially in the New Testament, is something that needs a second look from a lot of people, because Jesus never condoned demeaning somebody and treating somebody in such a way that they were seen as less than human. As a matter of fact, he raised the value of human life in all of his teachings. And the early Christians, as a matter of fact, in the Roman world, were so convicted by that, they would oftentimes buy slaves just so they could set them free. And all of those who were involved in the abolition of slavery in the early days of this country were Christians and were convicted by their Christian beliefs to do so. And there was obviously, yes, some disagreement on that, but it was Christianity that changed the way the world thinks about areas of compassion and mercy like slavery and children's rights and such. There's a psalm that is in Psalm chapter 57, verse 2, and this is kind of where this all comes together for me. The psalmist writes, "I cry out to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose. for me. And I read that verse for you because of all of the things that Jesus is changing in this world. The thing that he's most concerned about changing is you and is me. And that verse tells me is just one of many that says the relevancy that Jesus has is a purpose, a meaning for me, just for me. And he has the same thing just for you as well. So in this cutting room floor, I just wanted to encourage you to not be discouraged when you hear some ideologies or some philosophies that say Jesus no longer is relevant, the church is no longer relevant, the Bible is no longer relevant, because there could be nothing further from the truth. As a matter of fact, Jesus is more relevant today than he's ever been, and he wants to be relevant to you too. Have a great day. Go be relevant. Relevance is the key. Relevance. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? So, you go today and you be relevant, okay?
Okay, that last part was a little blurry, but